Son of a gun. Well, there's always a first. Congratulations, Emily. The first non-recorded episode. Now I'm recording this for all my shame. Luckily, we do a break in the middle, so we realized it before we did the whole thing. Okay.
Yes, be positive.
Here we go. I will count us in again and introduce us, and then we'll see what happens this time around. It's the great thing here is it's all unscripted, so
It will be better. Start from our background.
Fantastic. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, marketers, and welcome to the If You Market podcast, brought to you by Mountaintop Data and Johto PR. We are the only podcast that markets the shit out of it. I'm Sky Cassidy, and today we'll be talking with international lifestyle consultant Emily Belayev Bron about your new freedom of movement, basically, and what that means, and the ability to take your job anywhere for so many of us now, or so many of you now. Emily was born in Soviet Moldova, lives in Toronto now, has a business located in Mexico. Emily, can you tell us a little bit about your company? I guess I want to jump, because it's so close to the topic, straight into you talking about your company, yourself, and your journey to this from Soviet Moldova to Toronto, and advising people, helping people relocate all around the world.
Hello, I'm Emily Belayev, Bron. Yes, I was born years ago in Moldova. I lived in what is now independent Republic of Ukraine. I lived a little bit in Russia. I lived for years in Israel. And for 24 years, I'm already located in Toronto, Canada. And changing the several professions over my lifespan. Currently, I'm developing my last project, which I'm very excited to share with you. I'm owner of international lifestyle consulting company, which is helping people to find the destination, create personal plan, and customize solution for the best place for life, work, and retirement overseas, based on a customer budget, personal preferences, desired lifestyle, and connecting with reliable local professionals abroad. So my company services are available for personal relocation advices, as well for companies who are looking to expand their reach about remote works location. So I can advise on different topics in this direction.
So you're basically saying we've got listeners who are in a job, and let's go with your location there. They're living in Toronto. They're working there. They've been working home for the last year, maybe. They're on lockdown, and they're thinking, wait a second. Once this lockdown lifts, I can go from where Sky's at right now in this dumpster fire of an office to where Emily's at on some tropical paradise. I'd much rather live there than in Toronto, or maybe just half the year I'll go there and then half the year I'll go somewhere else. That basically a lot of people now have this freedom of movement as soon as we're actually allowed to move, because so many of us suddenly aren't tied location wise to our job. Like suddenly you don't have to come into the office every day. Like COVID has given us this huge leap forward in companies allowing people to work remotely, and what they realize, how it can work so well working remotely. And now you don't have to work in, you don't have to live in the suburbs of Detroit or in Toronto or in Los Angeles in some terrible place or in some expensive place. Or now for many people, suddenly you can take your job anywhere you want around the country, internationally. And that's basically what your company does, right? Is help people move, not in a digital nomad style, but in kind of a more permanent or semi-permanent move.
What I'm offering, the lifestyle options might be full-time, part-time, or actually preparation for your new adventure. And by the way, personally, what I'm doing now, After spending time at home, confined in Canada, I'm developing my online business, my online presence, the business that I can take with me to many destinations that I might find myself based on circumstances interested to be. In actually answering your question, there are some professional fields which already working, remote mode for years, like marketers, different type of software engineering work online, and we know about outsourcing, offshoring, say for India. But now we can entertain different lifestyle based on our professions. And by the way, what I'm saying, if you don't have yet the professions that you can take with you, or your online company or presence, my first advice would be start to think in this direction. Build something. I understand it's not probably for industrial workers,
Right.
but there's more and more professions or people who change their professions actually to live new lifestyle, which now we have
You can
more.
always change your job too. Like you work in an industrial factory, you can say, hey, what jobs allow remote working? And maybe I'm not going to be in this factory anymore. I'm just going to go to somewhere tropical and start over.
It's what
Um,
I did. Like, okay, I was IT professional working, but mostly in offices. I was engineer, but now I decided there is my time to live differently. I've had my travel company, which I turn out to be now independent, international lifestyle consulting. So we have a lot of topics we can, develop in this direction, and starting even from mindset, how to prepare yourself and what you need to do. It's very interesting, and our time and our after COVID life, I would say, I believe might open even more opportunities on a personal level for people to live in places of their dream or to relocate under different circumstances, cost of living, political changes in the country, economical changes. Somebody will look just for different scenery and climate. Climate might be important as well.
right. And some people just want to get away from the town they've been locked down in for so long. Whether from COVID or pre-COVID, they just, you know, you're in a town, you're fixed there. It doesn't feel like you can just pick up and move anywhere. And we always saw those people that, oh, they just put all their stuff in a car and drove somewhere else and put down. Well, now you can actually be a little better planned when you go there. But I don't know. So many of us have this easy rider. We can just go across the country, and I keep saying us, but it's not me. I'm tied down a little bit family wise. But so many people now, their jobs will allow them. So many marketers, so many. You mentioned IT people. A lot of IT work would be sent overseas and outsourced. But now, we may have people in Silicon Valley who are like wanting to outsource themselves, and they're like, wait a second, why don't I go live in India? Why don't I go live in some other country, wherever I want to go? Lower cost of living. I don't need to be in the San Francisco Bay Area paying a fortune, having, not liking where I live, living a tiny apartment. I'm going to go somewhere nice and do my same job, because now, silver lining of COVID, this remote work thing is being, I mean, all it really is it's being accepted. Like managers, we had an episode on a couple of years ago, and the lady on that episode was a remote work specialist. And she was saying the biggest obstacle is managers accepting it. Once we force them, once we get them to try it, they say, oh, there's no problem with this. A lot more of our employees could do this. It's a better quality of life, cut down the commute. Forget about all that stuff. All of a sudden, everybody was forced to accept remote work. And now we're in this different world. And on this episode, I want to get to a lot of things. Companies, they're hiring, how this affects that, political stuff. But I think maybe we'll do those things in the second half. Let's stick here with kind of getting this mindset into people's heads of how this works and what the options are, that kind of thing. Are there, I mean, what are the critical things people need to consider when thinking about, like, okay, I can just get up and move, but where am I going to go? And, what's the situation like there? I imagine there's healthcare, there's infrastructure, all but the politics. Can you go over some of the most important things?
Certainly, certainly. And actually, that's why I created my consulting company, and I'm working daily. I was collecting information, researching for years before for myself, and my friends. And now I'm doing kind of, for large public, with understanding that every situation is different, and we all have our like professional family budget and lifestyle desires and needs. That's why I am offering currently one-on-one consultation to help you guys at first to filter out what are the option in your particular case. So what I did, I created know yourself questionnaire, which can be uploaded from a consultation page on my website. And actually to have some time to, if you have partner, by the way, spouse, it's very important to do it together because answers might be different, and it's better to knock it down, by the way, in advance.
If you want to keep your partner or spouse, because if you do this without them, you may not have a partner or spouse anymore.
Yes, about because I know, what might happen. Like it's work, but when you in advance get to agreement, and you know what you're looking for, and you send me the answers on the first consultation. And sometimes if it's a couple with both of you, we're going together, to knock down maybe some specifics, and based on it, we set a base for, personal plan, what you need to consider. Like I have already an idea what countries might work for you based on your particular situation and even current location where you now. For example, Sky, for you, as far as I know, you are in California now.
Los Angeles, yeah.
Yes, for you as American, by the way, there is a big advantages to spend time in Mexico. First of all, you don't need any immigration papers. As American and Canadian, you can spend up to 6 months as a tourist. You can load your truck and move through the border, and actually free to go. And Mexico is the biggest #1 country for Americans and Canadians living abroad. So from 9 million of Americans who are already living abroad, I mean, officially on permanent base, #1, it's Mexico. And but even Mexico, it's a big country with different climate zone, different states. I mean, Mexican states of different, economical development, climate, and so for you, probably I would advise to go after. I need to review it after the questionnaire. Playa del Carmen in Riviera Maya. It's there's a lot of Americans, Canadians, and Europeans, digital nomad already hanging out for years. There are a lot of co-working, co-living places there. There's a lot of families here from United States as well. By the way, they have even international schools in English because, the market is already in demand, and Mexico offering several different hubs for digital nomads, for expats, I mean, baby boomers. It all depends on situation.
So you mentioned co-working spaces, and I'm thinking a couple of things. When you say Mexico, one of the first things I think is security. Like, okay, where are the areas where it's safe to go? But then also co-working. There are these co-working spaces before COVID, but I imagine it's going to be a lot more popular now. So in people's minds, they think, oh, I can move somewhere else and I'll work from home just like I am now. But they don't necessarily have to. There can be these co-working spaces are like offices, but instead of having all the employees from your company, they're just random employees from all different companies that are all working remotely in a co-working space. So maybe you work remotely from home a couple of days a week, and maybe you go into, if the place has these co-working spaces that, are sure to have quality internet access and facilities and interaction with other human beings while at work type of stuff. That seems like that would be key to a lot of people, that they would want to be near one of these sort of places.
It's very important, by the way, and co-working place is still important. Even you might have wonderful, internet connection at your home, because sometimes you need to have meeting, and they have meeting rooms, and actually maybe live meeting. It's what I know of. You don't need to have office. Once in a while, you're renting this facility for hour or two. I know it because my friends, my Mexican friends, what they do, and I'm connected with several startups in Mexico. It's one of my projects, like working here and there, having homes. They going to co-working place. There's other aspect. maybe not for you, but many digital nomads, they feel lonely. So for
I was gonna
them,
say the social part, like really,
social part, it's a
either
social.
you're going to work from home all day and become
Yeah,
a raging alcoholic because as soon as you're done with your workday, you need people and you go to the local bar every day. Or maybe, you know, the co-working space can get a little bit of that fix for you without having to drown yourself in alcohol every day.
it's about mindset a little bit, but yes, it's accountability partner you might have, or just, to discuss different ideas, maybe brainstorm some. I know, again, the amount of startups even happening and growing now in Playa del Carmen, in this region. I just happen to know this region better personally because I have my apartment already and I'm visited several times. uh, there's a lot of people who like this lifestyle and opportunity to meet other entrepreneurs and digital nomads from all countries of the world.
Yeah, the
Plus,
social part is huge. Like working from home is nice, but how do you get that human
yeah, but
interaction
all the
still?
combination, you can work from beach, for some time, you can work from home, but when you need office, when you need meeting, when you need to meet other professionals and maybe, brainstorm some ideas or maybe get new company going on, with your new co-workers. So by the way, people like these places and they even prefer to live close to co-working places. It's, a lot of new things popping up and making different sense recently.
I think Starbucks might want to open some Starbucks themed co-working places. People are already bringing their laptop and co-working in Starbucks. Just make it official and make them rent out a room.
and, and I know that a lot of cafes in Playa del Carmen full of digital nomads working sometime. Everyone has his kind of desk. But it's very interesting in new paradigm. The same it's happened in Europe. Like there are known hubs for digital nomads in Portugal, in Bulgaria, in Asia, Chiang Mai. But every situation is different based on where you're located now. What are your goals? What your family situation?
You have a questionnaire. Is one of the things on that questionnaire whether or not you need a Starbucks and Burger King or McDonald's or like food needs? Because I imagine some people, I lived in a very small rural town. My wife hated going and traveling there for holidays, and then they had a coffee shop that wasn't Starbucks, but it was close enough. And suddenly she was like, "Oh, this is so much better. I can tolerate it now." I'm sure some people would say like, what are my options where I can find it? This is now a commercial for Starbucks.
You
Where I
know
can
what?
find a Starbucks.
Speaking about Starbucks, they completely okay because you can find Starbucks in every place in whole on the world,
Mhm.
at least in Playa del Carmen in Europe. But speaking about like American food, one of the questions I have on my questionnaire, it's actually if you need to have access to your food you like or used
Right.
to. Like for Americans, it might be this kind. For me, by the way, I'm not for American diet till now.
Mhm.
I have different diet, preferences. I have even this kind of question: how often you prefer to see American football? How often you need to go? By the way, it's part of your well-being. It's
That's a
part
good, yeah.
for
And
many
so,
people. It's important. Like for me, it's important to go to museum. So I have question: what you prefer to do? To go to museum and spend time, in the woods, in the forest, and
right,
it's all. Everyone has his, priorities, and
right. You like skiing, you like mountain biking, you like hiking, you like
that
surfing, like, and I
uh,
imagine just to your left, people can't see it and they think you're just in this remote island. There's a Starbucks just to her left. So don't worry, they're everywhere.
it might be Starbucks, it might be a local, Indian food for people, from Indian community. Like some people I prefer European food, and it's okay if I can live without it. But for some people, it's super important, or maybe even health, they're health related on kind of food. So I'm trying to make, there's no ideal places. And that's why priority should be given as well. And I'm saying in advance, on what you can kind of compromise your well-being,
Hmm.
what is more important for you. And by the way, one of the questions I have on my questionnaire: what view you prefer to have? Beach, mountain, crowded, city center, and some people like it,
Yeah.
including me. or maybe countryside, or maybe isolated island. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm trying to consider many options which person might benefit.
That's fantastic. I imagine most people, if you ask where's your ideal place to live, if you could live anywhere, the vast majority of people would not say where they are now. Like there's things that they really don't like about where they are, and there's somewhere else they would rather be. And I guess the whole point of this episode is you can probably be there now. Like there's a lot of options, and all of a sudden this whole world is opened up to us, and you just have to go and start looking. And to be a little bit of pitching a little bit here, go to Emily's site. What is it? EmilyBron.com. We'll have it in the show notes. And there's a lot more show to come. I'm just jumping this because it comes to mind. Like go to the site and take that questionnaire and just start the interaction to see, oh, here's my options. Here's the type of thing I can do. There's this whole new world opened up. One silver lining of COVID. Now so many of us can move anywhere we want, can travel around, can pick up and set down in some other place and work remotely and have the life you really want to have. Um, and it's just, I mean, the repercussions, I believe that this is going to just ripple everywhere. One of the reasons I was so excited to have you on, Emily, um, this is the biggest change we've probably seen in human freedoms since 1989, maybe since the wall coming down. Suddenly the percentage of people who are free, unchained from their job, that was really holding them down, even if you loved your job geographically, and now things are wide open for so many people. Not for everybody. Still, hey, you work as a plumber now, you can work as a plumber somewhere else. You work in a manufacturing plant now, you can get a different job. There's a lot of jobs out there, and that whole market is going to go crazy, I think. Like there's just, I don't know, we'll talk about that in the second half, but the hiring in companies and the balance of power now and the shift that's going to have when people can pick up and go anywhere and get hired from anywhere. We saw a little bit of this with the ability to outsource, but now you can hire locally and still outsource that kind of, you can, it's just tearing down all these boundaries. And I don't think anybody's quite ready for it. But unlike a lot of shifts in the past, I feel like this is going to bring a renaissance that people don't realize. Not only are we going to be excited to get out after COVID and go everywhere, but we're going to be actually able to, and not on a, 3-day vacation type of a go everywhere. Like you can pack your suitcase and move, go anywhere.
But you need to be prepared somehow, to avoid mistakes and know in advance, depending on country, time, and many different factors. You need to be informed and maybe to make some steps in advance, not to be disappointed, or not to make mistakes. It's what I'm preaching. We all kind of can buy ticket, or people say me, okay, we can find information in internet. Okay, go to the internet, but how to find what you need and how to know that a trusted source. I'm going through, 1,000 sources, and I'm subscribed to some publishing that for years, and I'm following or changing them based on circumstances or interest I have.
Yep. My wife and I did a digital nomad version of this. And what you're doing isn't really digital nomad. This is more freedom of relocation type of thing, where you really need to know more about the area, because you're not just going to leave it the next day. But we did a 6-month trip after we got married around Europe. I was working remotely, and even being able to move from one day to the next, when we made a terrible hotel choice and ended up in Slough outside of London, because it was called the airport hotel, but it was really this tiny little place way far away that the taxis wouldn't even drive us at that time of night. Like we didn't know that because we were just going off the cuff from day to day and maybe staying somewhere a week and stuff. But there wasn't much planning you could do for that length of a trip and that style of a trip. But if you're looking at picking up your family or picking up everything and setting down somewhere, you have the ability to now. The problem is, I guess, the information. You don't know
Sometimes
everywhere, but
too much
Emily does.
information, too
Yes.
much information, and forums. And how did I find who I can? I think, again, going back to questionnaire, and what I, by the way, advise my clients as well, after maybe a couple of months, to look again in your questionnaire, how might some answers change, or because all is changing very quickly now. And we need to be aware of economical changes in different countries, or countries where we live, countries we planning to go, political changes, immigration changes, laws. Schengen zone might change, already changing some of the rules. Each country, as we saw last year until now, changing a lot in regards to taxation, immigration, and so on. Obviously, it's hard to take and to know all this in advance. And I'm not Oracle, but by the way, I'm following trends over the last year, looking on reports where from investment migration is going on and to what countries. Like investment mostly going from China to Europe and North America. So you understand, after investment, probably people will come as well.
Yeah.
And where people are going from these places, and it's different people. And again, today, a lot of information sometimes bring us to confusion. I'm trying to help people.
And on the internet, there's so much misinformation. So, and if you're looking to make a big move, like one of the things that keeps people in place. So we have a handful of things in the past. Your job, you can't move. Politics, you live in a country like Soviet Russia that does not allow you to move. Economics, you can't afford to move, but also just fear of what's out there. Where am I going to go? Like, I'm going to pick up everything and go somewhere and lose everything. I don't know where I'm going. And that's, again, not to make this a pitch. We'll pitch you later in the show, but that's where Emily comes in and knows these places. And basically it's a Sherpa. Like, you're going to climb Mount Everest, you need to have your guide and your Sherpa to help you climb Mount. This is Mount Everest of the world. Like, where am I going to go? I have all these options, but there's too many options. I need a trail guide to help point me in the right direction, so I don't just, Lewis and Clark without Sacagawea is in really big trouble out there. Okay, so I want to take a quick break here. We're talking with Emily Balayev-Bron, or Emily Bron. You can see her at emilybron.com. And we're talking about freedom of movement and international lifestyle consulting. And I don't even know what kind of stamp to put on the name of this, but we'll be back in just a minute and we'll talk about the politics of it, how this affects companies and hiring. And I have a whole lot of philosophies on this, so I'll try to let you speak as much as I can, Emily, but we will be right back.
Thank you.
And now there's actually a pause button for me to
record.
There we go. We are recording again. I am 2 out of 3. That's not bad. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the If You Market podcast. We've got Emily Balayev-Bron, or Emily Bron, as you'll see here on social media. And we're talking about international lifestyle consulting. More importantly for everyone here, we're talking about freedom of moving and living where you want in a post-COVID world with all the remote work options. And Emily, I promised you that after the break, we would get into politics and the business side of this stuff. There's so much we could talk about. And just a disclaimer here, we actually recorded a whole half a show without hitting the record button. And I'm going all over this all again. So now we're in new territory after the first half, but there's so much we can talk about. I don't know if we had any overlap in between the first unrecorded version and the second half we've done now. And there's just way too much to cover here, which is why I'm going to keep referring people to your website for this stuff. I look at your website and I can't look away. The images are beautiful, and just seeing the different areas and thinking, oh yeah, I could be living there. Oh yeah, I could be living there. It's awesome. It's awesome. But where do you want to start here? You want to start with the business or the politics?
Up to you.
Okay. Let's start with the politics so we can get that out of the way. I'll give you my philosophy and then you fill in any thoughts you have on it. I think the ability for people to move their jobs anywhere they want now, the vast majority, way more people to move their jobs, is suddenly going to really help politically. It's going to force politicians to provide services, provide infrastructure, and actually do the job, because so many of their constituents can suddenly just move. We're already seeing it in some areas where people are moving because the taxes are getting too high, the services, there's too much fecal matter on the streets, and homeless people and syringes everywhere, and people just say, that's it, I'm moving somewhere else. That's kind of the old style of moving. After COVID, with this ability to move your job anywhere, um, I think we're going to see a lot more people saying, I don't like this area. It's not just the weather. I just don't like this city. I'm moving to another city that's run better. And I feel like people are just going to have, suddenly there's accountability in politics. Politicians are going to have to actually run their cities well, not just worry about their next election cycle and whatnot, but I need to provide infrastructure. I need to provide a tax system that makes sense. I need to provide safety. I need to provide, what you're supposed to be providing other than election slogans. So that's my kind of, I don't know if it's political in a bad way, but how I think this is going to affect politics. And people suddenly have this vote with their feet of just being able to leave, where before we were all um we were all abused spouses that couldn't leave before, and now we can leave, and suddenly these abusers are really going to have to get their stuff together.
You knocked it down on many different angles. And I can tell you this movement for freedom, for democracy, how they name it, already started in Europe.
What
For
would you
example,
know? What would you know about Movement for Freedom, Emily? Come on.
I'm speaking now about organization. Like last week, I was part of international conferences online. It's what I do. If somebody will ask me, what is your day about? I'm participating in international conferences and meetings. And what was interesting about this one, it was about remote workers and work future. And mostly like it was provided by British, French, like European platform. Democracy now, it's what they say, speaking about. And, I've heard kind of with astonishment from the beginning, many views of professionals from European different countries. And what was already striking me that, for example, France and Great Britain already came with some grants to keep their professionals, workers in country or working for companies in a country because people started to move.
Yeah, I think in the past, politicians had to play to the companies. They had to keep the company in their city, in their country. And now suddenly there's going to be way more. Certain industries, again, people will keep saying, yeah, but certain industries won't be affected nearly as much, but you still have all the management jobs and stuff like that. Even in a manufacturing plant, you have a marketing department, you have all these things that can be remote. But um, before, politicians were busy trying to coax companies to their city or to their country. And now all of a sudden, it's this great democratization of it, where it's no longer I need to get the one dictator to say yes and I need to bribe them to come here. Now you have to appeal to all the workers, because the company you may coax the company to move to your city with great tax breaks and you'll make them a building, and then you realize none of their workers are moving there. They're just putting their headquarters location there, and all their workers are living in other cities that they prefer much more than yours, and they're spread all over the place. And we saw some of this in the last 4 years here in the US, where some businesses were coaxed to move their headquarters or keep their businesses in the US. And then you find out, oh, a lot of the tax breaks they were given to do that, there was no guarantees on the jobs staying here. They just kept the company, quote unquote, here. And then they use the money to do more automation instead of hire people. And you're like, oh, oops, we actually lost jobs and we paid these people to do it. When the individual people get to vote on everything suddenly, including where you're going to live and where you're going to take your salary. So now you can say San Francisco is a shithole. I'm going to take my 200K salary and I'm taking it to another city. And that city is going to be a hell of a lot more appreciative of all this money flowing in now that wasn't there before. I think some of these small towns are probably, the people there won't like it so much. People are going to say, wow, this is a really nice little town here. They're going to start having tourism boards to tell people their town's a shithole, or intentionally sabotaging their internet because they don't want a bunch of digital nomads living there. But this democratization of where you're taking your work money and where you're going to move your economics and your tax base to anywhere you want, I just think it's going to have an awesome effect. It's power to the people when it comes to their work.
It's already happened. By the way, one of my latest blogs, it's freedom to live everywhere. In this article, I'm speaking just briefly about that remote work actually has changed our values as employee and as a companies. That remote work increase productivity based on some statistics. And freedom to live everywhere open kind of a lot of more opportunities. And I can tell you that some companies already even design new perks or benefits, allowing the employees to work, say, be with us, but to work 2 months a year abroad where you want. Like
Uh-huh.
it all shift on many different aspects of company structure. And I would like to point attention that Generation X and Z, they have different mentality, different life balance approach versus, old fashioned, I would say, corporation mindset. They
Right.
even agree to get less salary, but to live their life how they wish.
And in many cases, less salary. Again, if you're moving from San Francisco to Nebraska, you're going to find that less salary, you have a much higher quality of life.
Exactly.
The money,
It,
you no longer are paying $5,000 a month in rent or whatever it is. Suddenly you're like 500, and that's twice the size. And I'm left next to a forest where I can go hiking, and this is freaking awesome. Pay cut? Are you kidding me? Like the conversion rate's insane. So we're transitioning. I want to make one last comment on the politics side, which people thought it was going to be something like, ooh, political controversy. I don't think it's that at all. My last point would be to say mayors and governors, this is a warning call to them to get their shit together, because their people can just go anywhere now and they can bring their dollars with them. So you are going to be left with no budget, holding the bag, because so many of your high paid people can now just move to wherever the heck they want. And I would say, instead of trying to entice the company leaders to move their company to your area and offering to build factories or give them tax breaks or whatever it is, what you need to be doing is building co-working spaces and letting them be open to anybody to come on in, and enticing the individual workers there. Because if you take your small town and you put a nice co-working space in there, it's a public space and it has great high-speed internet, and you advertise that out, suddenly you're going to see your town that had almost no tax base before have tons of people with 100K plus salaries coming in and spending all their money in your town and living there. And making the right moves as a mayor, as a governor, to facilitate the people now instead of the companies is I see that's just going to be a huge shift. But that's my
let
last say on that. The hiring companies part, we were starting to get into.
let's face the fact that people already moving from California, New York State, and actually some of them moving to Texas and Florida, but many of them I already found living in Mexico. And some of them, I was speaking with my partner, like a relocation specialist in Berlin, in Germany, asking her, who are your clients? It was around New Year. She told me Americans moving to Germany. I was even kind of surprised. But people are moving,
Yeah.
professionals, and she's
Well,
working only with professionals.
I'm in California, and I have to say, some people may be moving out, but we have a lot of people moving in as well. The problem is they tend to all be homeless. So, there's
Yes,
a balance. We have a lot of homeless people moving in and a lot of high earners moving out, possibly.
it's
Um,
not helping economy, and let's face it,
no,
infrastructure in the United States and in Canada, in some places, really should be upgraded. To
yep.
offer this new technology and people live in these places. Because I can tell you, in some island in Costa Rica, you can get better internet than in big cities of North America.
All right, let's move on to the hiring and the companies and how this impacts companies. I see a lot of things this is going to do. As a small business owner myself, we realized that in the past, when we were looking to hire talent, we had a limited area around us. We're in LA and it seems like, oh, it's a major city, but we're in the San Fernando Valley just outside of LA. If somebody actually lives in LA, there's no way they're commuting to our office. It's way too far. And we realize there's a radius. And if we hire outside that radius, people don't last more than a week after the commute. Now, with you only have to commute to your couch to get to your laptop, suddenly our scope of where we can hire people has expanded to just about anywhere. Like we looking for talent now, we don't have to only look for talent in our backyard. We can look for talent anywhere in the world for the vast majority of our jobs. In fact, our whole office is remote right now, and this burning office behind us is the closest thing we have to an office. We closed down our office at the end of the year. Everybody's been remote, and we just said, well, there's no reason to have a physical presence for us. I liked it. I like going to the office and seeing people. I don't think anybody else did. Maybe that says something about me and whether people like being around me. But I think for companies, the ability to hire is going to be massively changed. So people have the freedom now to work for a lot of companies that weren't available to them before. So they think like, yeah, but my job isn't. You can now get a job anywhere else and live anywhere else in so many industries. So that's opened wide as well.
It's what they say, the global workforce revolution. And when like you think about it, how many changes companies should go through, and change maybe in their human resources structure and how they work with people. Maybe not every company would accommodate these changes, but what's happening now, and I've heard from this young remote worker, digital nomad / professionals, they saying, okay, if companies, we will keep them accountable. If
Yeah.
we don't like it, so I will work as freelancer. I will go to other companies. So really, it shift to the employees more to personal professional achievement, I would say. It's new world of probably new rules that should be accommodated, because there are other questions with people moving from different countries, the residency status, the tax status. I will not go to this one, but I can tell you that there are several companies who are working online, offering relocation services for companies with
Yeah.
local professionals who would accommodate these changes.
I'm looking, hey, I may work in LA, but I no longer have a physical office here. Why am I paying LA city taxes? Why am I like, I can now, I mean, a lot of companies did this before, but even for small companies now, it's, oh, where do I want my company to be headquartered? Now companies can consider all these things because companies are super mobile when you're no longer, I mean, before you saw all the companies and they would center around either a long time ago was a port. If your city has a port, then you're a rich city because that's where you have to be because ships have to come in and out to trade. And that's just everything went through ports. And then suddenly you're saying, okay, now the big companies are the ports are still important, but you're really seeing them around universities and military bases because that's where the talent is. Where are the people? Universities and all the high tech came up for, there's a reason around these areas. Well, why didn't they just go off somewhere else and start high tech and hire these people and relocate them? Back then that just wasn't so much an option. If you wanted to be successful, you had to be where the talent was. And now you're saying that companies don't have to offer remote work. I don't know if you want the talent, you might have to offer it because if I'm talented, now I get to choose where I want to go. And I'm going to say, look, if you want me to come work for you or stay with you, if you're not going to let me work remotely and everybody else is, we just had a massive power shift, and companies that let people work remotely will have a open talent pool, and companies that won't. You'll be restricted. So feel free to say, no, sorry, you have to come into the office. But now you just cut out the vast majority of the talent pool that you can access. And that's going to hurt companies if they do that. So I would say democratizes in so many different directions with just this sudden ability to remote work. I've got a lot of ideas around it, but I don't think we quite know how much of an impact it's going to have. And I've heard people say, oh, what you're saying is kind of like you're getting up there crazy. It's not going to really change anything. I don't know. I think we're coming up on a renaissance thanks to this. The power handed to employees over where they work, who they work for, Before you were like, I live here. Here's the companies I can work for.
You
Now
know
you
what?
can say I can live anywhere and I can work for companies that are anywhere. That just blows everything wide open.
I can tell you that some companies already on this direction. I have just some statistics I prepared in this case. Gartner, a research and advisory company for businesses, released survey that showed that 82% of company leaders plan to allow employees to work remotely at least part of the time after pandemic. Almost 50% plan to allow employees to work remotely full time. PwC surveys of 669 CEOs saying that more than 78% believe remote work is here to stay. And
Yeah.
some companies consider, hybrid option like part-time office and remote work options for some employee. Because again, some people, prefer to go to office. Everyone condition is differently, maybe for time being, or maybe their job required, hands-on server work or whatever. And some others and company can benefit of them being on distance.
Yeah.
What is important now when you mentioned port, I was thinking, reliable internet. Port to your
Internet ports. Yeah. We used to have ship ports. Now we have internet ports.
exactly. There's now defining where we can go.
Yeah. That's a great, that's like we used to have tablets and now we have tablets again. We used to have ports and now we have ports again. It's just, we're using the same words over again. Son of a gun. Um, Yeah, I think I don't know who those 20 something percent are people that think remote work isn't here to stay, because it was here to stay before COVID. And we had this massive jump forward in remote work and the trust of, oh wow, when I have people work remotely, the vast majority of them are more productive. And then I get to find out the ones that aren't. And now I know. But I would say some of the responsibility suddenly comes down to the employees now, where
Oh,
sure, we have this great open thing, but guess what? Now you're not only competing with people locally, now you're competing with talent everywhere. Because if you work from remote and you suck at it, it's a lot easier to replace you. So if you want to have the power, and again, the democratizing the open marketplace means you have to compete now. So it's great, but you have to compete. So you have to do a good job, or you're going to find yourself, living in Bora Bora with no job. And you have to do a good job in order to have the options. You have to have skills in order to have the options. So I think this may separate the skilled and unskilled workers way more also. Like, unfortunately, the middle class workers are going to be brought up, but the lower class work the situation might get worse for them, especially in contrast to, now the guy doing IT support is, living the life somewhere, and you're stuck there locally because, maybe you just don't work that hard and never got yourself together. So workers, companies, get yourself together. Mayors and governors, get yourself together. Workers also, what happens when you get an open marketplace and competition is, it doesn't mean you suddenly have some sort of socialism, communism system where you don't need to work because everything's taken care of. It is exactly the opposite. Opportunity is there, but everybody's fighting and competing for the same opportunity. So if you sit back on your ass and think, oh, this is all just a party now, you're going to be left in the dust. You're going to be left the one who's not working remotely. You're somewhere stamping something out in a factory, still miserable. So continue to bust your ass and be awesome at what you do if you want to take advantage of this new situation.
and for younger generation, I think there's still time if they're ready and adventurous enough to reconsider and maybe to create some new company. What they're gonna do if they really want to live different lifestyle? You have time, you have option. Do something, create your company, even with your skills. By the way, plumbers you mentioned before, you can work in every place.
Yeah.
Why not to be here? Like you can work in other countries. Yes, you need to learn language maybe, or you need to do something else. But again, it's coming to self-development as well.
Yeah, they have pipes and toilets almost everywhere. So you can plumb just about anywhere.
I mean, even mentally to prepare to live in different culture, in different society, it might be boost for one person, but as you say, frightened for condition for others. but I'm speaking about this as well. And I can say, I would say that, the remote work, it's not for everyone. It's with people with certain mindset, skills, and people who are ready to work on themselves, in order to get to other place professionally or geographically.
Right. So good thing is, don't worry if you're listening to this thinking, how am I going to handle this? You don't have to work remotely. In fact, you can choose a company specifically that has you come into the office all the time now. It's just now there's the option, and it's
Yeah, and
about to get even bigger.
maybe if you come to the office now, they would more appreciate you and give you a raise for you
Yeah.
staying with the company.
Yeah, if you love the office, find somewhere that values people who love the office and
Yes,
being in the office, and then you can thrive in that environment.
exactly.
It's just the options are there, the opportunity is there now. I want to take this opportunity to direct people to your website. Again, emilybron.com. Go there. You have what would we call it, a survey that people can take?
On the consultation page, there is a know yourself questionnaire, which can be filled in. But I recommend to do it when we complete it and send to me when person is ready for consultation. And by the way, the first consultation I offer now by free, just to knock down what is important for you and to start our kind of journey. And I understand to work on a plan might take time, especially in our COVID era, but it's better to start and be kind of in the direction, consider your option, and work towards your goal.
Yeah. And that's where I'd say, check out the website. I scroll down and I see Mexico, Belize, Panama, Portugal, and I just start salivating over these different locations and thinking, oh my God, yes, I could be living there. That looks awesome. Oh, wow, this looks amazing. Um, this is still a big decision and not something to be done, digital nomad, you're trying to decide what hostel to stay in the next night. No problem. This is more of a, you're making a big move here type thing. It's why Emily exists. And I would encourage people to follow Emily so you can see what's going on. She's on top of this stuff all the time. What's going on in these different areas, what the, always she's writing, she's on social media. So follow her on LinkedIn. What's the best place for people to follow you, Emily?
For companies, professionals, LinkedIn, it's where I'm moved now personally, kind of working on LinkedIn, networking a lot. I have my Facebook presence, which I was working for some time. And I have, by the way, marketing company in Mexico who's supporting me now. And they hopefully will take social media. So I'm working in several directions. I have now my YouTube channel. I'm with you on podcasting, and personally, I'm planning to travel when the situation will be better in Canada, to fly out, to be this summer in Nicaragua, Mexico, Belize, actually to visit the places, to speak with people who already made, the change early in their life, or maybe now considering. Just, follow me. I will provide a lot of information, interviewing people, blogging, just to keep you informed. And actually for me, just to see what kind of lifestyle different countries can offer. Because there are a lot of interesting projects happening now, development in Central America. I mean, my partners, companies who working, and special project actually for digital nomad and remote workers, tiny homes, eco housing, eco communities, wellness communities. It's actually part of my personal interest as well. And how these companies now, communities are created specifically, I would say, for North Americans and European professional remote workers, with all facilities, and at the same time community living and cost of living and tropical climate. So a lot of interesting things happening, which I'm trying to be aware of for you guys.
So one more question. What about businesses? Do you work with businesses directly that maybe have a lot of employees that might want to work remotely? Do businesses refer their employees to you, I guess I would say, and say, hey, we have people who want to work remotely, and we want them to be able to come to you so that if they're going to move somewhere, they move somewhere safe that has the infrastructure that has, it's almost like having a gym at your office or something like that, but now for remote work. And if you don't do this, then I want a cut of it. Because it seems like many businesses may want to facilitate the remote work to make sure their people, one, they have a hand and get some credit in it, and also make sure their people go somewhere that's going to work out for them.
You know what, like my example, speaking about location, in July I'm planning to go to Nicaragua. It's a co-working, co-living facility for retreats for professionals. It's one of the models that I'm interested as well, because people have like all conditions already in place, even it's Nicaragua. But it can be time, to spend some time with company for team building,
Hmm.
to have some workshops, to have workshop slash vacation slash training. There's a lot of option might come from actually this example. Speaking about companies, I hope that big companies, I'm not sure if it's my market. I think middle-sized, small companies would be more flexible to do this rather than big one. But that's why I'm on LinkedIn, just to let people and companies know about these new opportunities, about remote work option, because some companies might consider it, but they would not know where to start from. So my ideal clients are people as well as employers who might entertain these ideas, how to spend time maybe for retreat in
Hmm.
say Belize or Mexico, or how to relocate. So
Yeah,
there is a lot
maybe.
of
I mean, they might have talent that they want to make sure they keep in their company, but that talent wants to move once they're now that they're remote, and could be a good way to make sure you keep them in your company if you kind of help assist in that relocation. So in the past, you were paying to relocate people to where you are. Now you can assist in relocating them to wherever they want to be, and in that way, still keep them as your talent working within your family, within your company.
Yeah, you can have a branch. I mean, some part of your company living in Belize for 3 months, and maybe performance will be out of sky,
Yeah.
and or different places. You might not need your big facility in downtown Toronto or San Francisco to pay so much. You can work from home. I mean, as a manager, even.
Hmm.
What we do in human resources and navigate the
Oof.
perks. And what companies do now, they even implement this, as I mentioned, in their benefit packages.
Yeah, this is a whole nother, you're opening up a whole nother episode, I feel like, when I realize, oh wait, yeah, companies, hey, management, uh, why don't you invest in a couple places down in Belize, and then you can send your employees there. Of course, you're also an employee, so you could go there and get away, but now your company has this remote space. And maybe you need to go visit those workers every once in a while to check on them, and while you're
Maybe
there, catch some
like,
sun and
yes,
vacation.
maybe to relocate, even, I don't know, invest, who knows how it's going to be. Like it might be more
Mm.
productive to be, if manager, owner of the company entertain maybe ideas to relocate himself. Okay. It might be
Yeah.
one of the options that's why I think for smaller company or middle size, to have this global exposure might have some sense. But
Okay, that's fantastic. This might be our longest running episode yet, since we recorded 1.5 this time around. Um, but let's wrap it up. I want to direct people to where they can find you on LinkedIn, of course. It's Emily Balia Bron. We'll have it in the show notes. We'll have a link there. Trust me, it took me quite a while trying to pronounce your name. I apologize for airing out your dirty laundry on my inability to pronounce your name, but also emilybron.com. Again, on the show notes at ifyoumarket.com. And go check that out to find out more about her, to follow her on social media, keep on top of what's going on with these things. If you're really ready to start talking about this stuff, then do the book a consultation thing, and you'll take the quiz to find out where might be a good fit for you with your specific needs and likes and wants and all that kind of stuff. And on behalf of the If You Market team and international lifestyle consultant Emily Balia Bron, thank you for listening to the If You Market podcast, where we believe if you market the shit out of it from wherever you want to be, they will come.
Thank you very much. Thank you personally, Sky. It was my pleasure. And I feel